If the alien woman did not mate with a human soldier within 1 day, she would die. Under the burned orange sky of Vathar's third moon, Marcus Cade crouched behind the fractured hull of a downed crawler, the air thick with static and falling embers. His helmet display flickered with distorted icons, hostile signatures, dead batteries, a very large red countdown that told him the orbital strike would sweep this valley clean in under an hour. He muttered something rude about paperwork and adjusted the coil rifle slung across his shoulder. The ground trembled as distant plasma bolts hammered the canyon walls, turning stone to vapor. Even after 20 years of war, the smell of scorched ozone still felt like being punched in the nose by an angry thunderstorm. He caught the movement first as a shimmer at the edge of his visor. A figure emerged from the smoke like a phantom, slim, upright, unarmed but unmistakably alien. She moved with a predator's precision, stepping over bodies, without looking down. Her skin glimmered silver blue under the faint sun, hair spilling like black oil across armored shoulders. Her ears long, tapering ridges with a faint glow at the tips, twitched as if catching sounds beyond the human range. Cade's grip tightened. His finger hovered over the trigger, but something about her deliberate stride made him hesitate. Most Altari warriors would rather die than surrender. This one walked as though she were on a stage she despised but could not leave. She stopped a few meters away and raised both hands. "Human soldier," she said, her voice low but edged with steel. "I invoke the compact of last resort." Her accent bent the vowels, making even military jargon sound like an oath in an ancient temple. Cade blinked. "The compact of what now?" He lowered the rifle just enough to squint at her. "Lady, I'm out of coffee and out of patience. Whatever compact you're invoking, it better come with a dental plan." She narrowed her eyes. "I have 22 of your minutes before systemic failure. You will comply." Cade leaned a little to the left, scanning the battlefield. No backup coming. No medics. Just him and a very intense alien with glowing ears. "Systemic failure," he repeated. "That's a new one. You're telling me you're about to what explode?" "Not explode," she said with a sharp inhale. "Collapse. Cellular disintegration. Death." She took a step closer, ignoring the coil rifle. "If I do not bond with a compatible organism within the next cycle, my biology will fail. The only compatible organism here is you." Cade's heart did a small but noticeable lurch. "Wait, are you saying?" "Yes," she said flatly. "That is exactly what I am saying." He let out a slow whistle and looked skyward as if expecting divine intervention. "Well, that's a first. Usually people just ask for a spare stimpack." His comlink crackled but died again. Command was gone, or jammed. He was alone. He flicked the rifle's safety on and slung it over his back. "Look, what's your name? Because this is sounding like the weirdest blind date in the history of war zones." She tilted her head, the glow in her ears pulsing faintly. "Lyrienne of the Altari Protectorate." "Right. Marcus Cade of the, well, currently very confused Human Expeditionary Force." He exhaled. "And you're sure it's me? No offense, but there's a lot of corpses around here who might be more your type." "No," she said with that same cool pride. "They are dead. You are alive. Compatible DNA verified by proximity scan." He rubbed his temples. "Fantastic. My mom always said I'd meet someone special in the army." Another tremor rippled through the ground. The orbital strike countdown hit 40 minutes. Cade's HUD warned of approaching drones. Lyrienne's legs wobbled, a flicker of silver light running under her skin, like lightning trapped beneath glass. She swayed but caught herself, pride intact. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Okay. We'll figure something out. First rule of survival: don't die while planning how not to die." He offered his arm. "Can you walk?" She glanced at the arm as if unsure whether to slap it away or accept it. "My motor control is compromised," she admitted. Then, grudgingly, "Yes." "Great." He hoisted her over his shoulder in a fireman's carry. She weighed less than expected, more like a suit of flexible metal than a person. "You're lucky I do upper body workouts." As he jogged toward the wreck of his dropship, she muttered near his ear, "This is undignified." Yeah, well, so is dying. She almost sounded amused. Your humor is crude. Crude humor keeps me sane, he said. You'll thank me later. The dropship loomed ahead, hull scorched but engines intact. Inside, Kate shoved aside crates of ammo and emergency rations, laying her gently on the padded bench. Her glowing ears flicked again. She was watching him with a mix of defiance and curiosity. He knelt to check her vitals, alien vitals, at least as his scanner interpreted them, and winced at the readings. Cellular degradation accelerating. She studied him. You do not appear afraid. Oh, I'm terrified, he said, flipping switches on the control panel. But I'm also too tired to show it. Years of practice. The ship's engines roared to life, lifting off the battlefield. Through the viewport, the scorched valley receded, dotted with sparks of combat and distant explosions. The countdown continued its merciless crawl toward zero. She pressed her palm to her chest, her breathing shallow. You cannot delay. The bond must occur soon. He glanced at her, trying to mask his discomfort with a half-smile. Let's get off this rock first. We'll find a med station, some doctors, maybe a nice candlelit dinner. Her eyes narrowed. This is not a matter for jest. I know. He adjusted their trajectory for a high-atmosphere jump. But if I stop joking, I start screaming. And nobody wants to see that. For the first time, her lips curved, almost a smile. Perhaps your humor will ease the process. He blinked. Did you just make a joke? Perhaps. He chuckled despite himself, hand steady on the controls. Outside, the moon's gravity well loosened its grip, and the stars opened before them like a vast, indifferent audience. Inside, two enemies sat in the cramped cockpit, bound by a choice neither wanted but both now had to face, the first flicker of reluctant partnership sparking between them as the ship surged toward the unknown. The dropship rattled as it broke through the upper atmosphere, metal skin shuddering like an old elevator. Marcus Cade slammed his palm against the stabilizer panel until the blinking lights went from angry red to grudging amber. Beside him, Lyrian clutched the harness with a grip that would have dented steel. He could feel her bioluminescence flicker in pulses at the edge of his vision, casting a strange glow over the cockpit's scuff controls. You call this a vessel? She asked, voice taut but steady. It's not a vessel, Cade said. It's a miracle held together with duct tape, coffee stains, and my charming personality. The ship gave a violent lurch, throwing a toolkit across the cabin. One of the wrenches floated briefly before gravity caught up. Lyrian caught it midair with reflexes that were still sharp despite her condition. Your technology is primitive. Primitive but persistent, he said, yanking a lever that squealed like a dying animal. Welcome to humanity's proud tradition of making things barely work under impossible conditions. The NAV computer spat out an error in 3 different languages. Cade ignored it and pulled up a star chart. Okay, here's the plan. We're headed for Nimbus Array, a decommissioned research station. Dead zone between the two factions. No one's supposed to be there. We'll grab medical supplies, figure out your situation. You mean my imminent death? She said dryly. I was going for something more uplifting. Her head tilted, ears flicking faintly. You mask fear with levity. Interesting. I call it survival humor. Works better than therapy and cheaper, too. The ship jolted again as a proximity alarm screamed. Cade's display filled with pulsing red triangles. We've got drones on our tail. He toggled the rear cams. 3 sleek shapes cut through the darkness, their engines emitting pale blue trails. Well, somebody really doesn't want us to get to Nimbus Array. She unbuckled the harness, despite the turbulence. Give me a weapon. You're in no shape to fight. Her eyes glinted. I was born to fight. He tossed her a compact pulse pistol anyway. Fine, but don't get plasma on the upholstery. It's new. It smells of mold. Yeah, but it's my mold. Outside, the drones opened fire, streaks of energy flashing past the cockpit. Cade dived the dropship into a debris field of shattered satellites and frozen gas plumes, using the wreckage as cover. Sparks lit up the hull. He could hear Lyrian muttering calculations under her breath, a stream of alien numerics that sounded like music. Left vector, she snapped. then 93 degrees starboard. He followed her instructions, skimming so close to an asteroid fragment that the hull scraped. The drones clipped the rock and scattered. "Nice call," he said. "You play a mean GPS. I do not know this term." "Never mind, just keep being brilliant." Another barrage slammed into the tail. Warning sirens erupted. Lyrian raised the pistol and fired through the small rear viewport, shots guided by instinct more than sight. Two drones spiraled out of control, colliding with each other in a brief, bright explosion. The third drone swung wide, regrouping. Cade triggered a countermeasure, a cloud of magnetized chaff that glittered like a miniature galaxy. The drone sensors overloaded, spinning it into the remains of an old communications tower. Silence returned except for the ship's creaks and the faint hum of Lyrian's glowing veins. He risked a glance at her. She was slumped against the seat, pistol dropping from her fingers. Her breathing was shallow. "Hey," he said softly. "Stay with me." "I am here," she murmured, eyes half closed. "But my strength fades. Each passing moment." "Yeah, I know." He tried to smile. "Good news is, you're still the best co-pilot I've ever had." "You have not had many co-pilots." "Exactly, so you're winning by default." Despite herself, she made a faint sound that could almost be laughter. Hours stretched as they drifted on autopilot toward the dead station. Cade busied himself with ship maintenance, patching circuits with a soldering wand, muttering jokes about space duct tape, and fixing everything with hope. Lyrian watched, silent but alert, her gaze occasionally softening. Finally, Nimbus Array appeared, a skeletal ring silhouetted against a pale nebula, spinning slowly like the ghost of a wheel. The station's lights were dead, but its docking clamps still extended, waiting like patient claws. Cade guided the dropship in, engines sighing as they latched onto the docking collar. He powered down systems and stood, stretching his cramped limbs. "All right, Your Highness," he said. "Field trip time." "Highness, you've got the posture of someone who could order me to clean a starship deck." "I could," she said weakly, "but you would make a poor servant." "I'm worse as a hero," he said, slinging his rifle. The airlock hissed open to a corridor of shadow. Their helmet lamps cut beams through floating dust motes. Panels hung loose, cables coiled like sleeping serpents. Gravity flickered at odd intervals, making them stagger. As they advanced, Cade cracked more jokes to steady both of them, about haunted stations, about Altari princesses in distress, about his own lousy aim. Lyrian responded with curt but softer replies. Her glow lit the corridor like a living torch, illuminating faded murals of DNA helixes and long-forgotten experiments. They reached the station's command hub. Screens flickered awake under his touch, revealing corrupted files and locked doors. "Well," he said, "it's either a medical archive or a horror movie set." Lyrian touched a console. Her biometrics triggered an access cascade, ancient Altari symbols scrolling across the screens. "This place was ours once," she whispered, "long before the war." Cade glanced at her. "Guess we came to the right place after all." "I hope you are right," she said, "because my time grows very short." He met her gaze, humor faltering for a heartbeat. "Then we better get to work. And hey, no dying on me yet. That's an order." Her lips curved faintly. "You are not my commander." "True," he said, "but I'm the guy with the coffee. That counts for something." Her eyes flickered with a dim golden light. "Perhaps." He rolled up his sleeves, scanning the files for any clue, any hint of the bonding procedure or a workaround. Behind them, the station creaked like an old leviathan stirring in its sleep. Ahead lay rows of locked laboratories, the promise of forbidden knowledge, and the ticking clock of her fading life. But for the first time since the battlefield, the silence between them felt less like an enemy and more like a fragile truce, held together by jokes, desperation, and the faint hope of survival. The station's control hub flickered as if waking from a century-long nap. Marcus Cade leaned over the cracked console, his glove sticky with old insulation gel, eyes scanning lines of alien script scrolling past. Lyrian stood beside him, her glow dimmer but steadier, fingers trailing across the display like someone brushing memories off a wall. He muttered at the stubborn interface. If this thing asks me for a password one more time, I'm going to name my next migraine after it. Lyrianne tilted her head, catching the faint hum of dormant systems. This archive predates your species' first jump drive. Speak carefully to it. Yeah. Dear ancient alien computer, please don't fry us. Sincerely, your favorite human. He tapped a panel. It sparked, then unlocked. See, works every time. Her ears flicked faintly. You are reckless. I call it optimistic troubleshooting, he said. It's an Earth tradition. The hub projected a map of the station's interior, corridors highlighted in different colors. Most labs were sealed, but one sector blinked green. Lyrianne stepped closer, breathing faster. That is a genetic repository. We stored emergency protocols there. It may hold the sequence needed to stabilize me. Then let's go find your cure before you turn into a pile of sparkles, Cade said, grabbing his rifle. I do not intend to become a pile of sparkles. That's the spirit. They moved through the corridor, guided by the map and their helmet lamps. The station felt alive, cables twitching under microcurrents, distant clangs echoing as gravity cycled on and off. Cade cracked jokes about haunted air vents and squid-like maintenance drones plotting our demise. Lyrianne ignored him at first, but eventually a faint curve touched her lips. When a real maintenance drone skittered across the ceiling, spindly limbs, lens eye glowing, Cade nearly shot it. Okay, he muttered. I was kidding about the squid robots. It is harmless, she said, extending her hand. The drone paused, scanned her, and dropped a data crystal into her palm like an offering. They remember my command codes. That's convenient. Does it also do coffee? Unlikely. They reached the sealed door of the genetic repository. Lyrianne pressed her palm against the scanner, ears glowing brighter as her biometrics cycled through. The door hissed and opened to reveal a chamber lined with crystal pillars, each holding swirling threads of suspended DNA like luminous smoke. Cade's jaw dropped. Well, this is officially cooler than any lab I've ever seen. She moved among the pillars, reading the alien sigils. These are our stored potentials, old strains, forgotten adaptations. Somewhere here lies my survival. He watched her, thinking how strange it was, this fierce warrior now tracing ancient genes as if they were prayers. If you find a gene for better ship engines, grab that too. Focus, she said, though her tone softened. Together, they activated the central console. A holographic model of her cellular structure appeared, flickering with destabilized nodes. Cade squinted. Looks like a Christmas tree about to short-circuit. Lyrianne ignored the joke, adjusting parameters with trembling fingers. If we overlay my genome with your species' adaptive code. He raised an eyebrow. Adaptive code? You mean? Yes, she said quietly. Your DNA. It may stabilize mine. That is why the bond was designed. Not for pleasure, but for survival. He rubbed the back of his neck. Well, that's less awkward. Slightly. They worked side by side, his hands on the human interface, hers on the alien one, merging data into a new matrix. The computer hummed louder, processing the impossible blend. Occasionally Cade made comments. If this thing turns me into a lizard, I'm suing. And Lyrianne would flash him a look somewhere between exasperation and gratitude. Suddenly the lights dimmed. A low tone pulsed through the chamber. The drone from before zipped in, chittering urgently. Lyrianne's ears twitched. Unauthorized access detected, she said. We have awakened the station's defense matrix. Great, Cade muttered. We break into an ancient alien gene vault and trip the alarm. Classic. Panels slid open along the walls, revealing spindly security constructs like skeletal insects. Their eyes glowed red. Cade raised his rifle. Guess the talking didn't work. They are programmed to neutralize intruders, Lyrianne said. Even me. Good to know. He fired a burst at the nearest one. Sparks showered as it collapsed. Lyrianne, despite her fading strength, hurled a plasma charge at another, her aim unerring. They fought their way in a slow retreat to the central console, defending the data as it compiled. Cade cracked jokes between shots. I always wanted a workout buddy. Your humor is distracting, she said, firing again. Then it's working. The console chimed, data complete. Lyrianne seized the crystal with the encoded hybrid genome. We must reach the medical bay. Lead the way, Sparkles. She glared faintly, but did not correct him. They ran through flickering corridors as the station shuddered, automated turrets swiveling, but sparing them at the last second, perhaps still recognizing Lyrianne's authority codes, perhaps hesitating. Kay didn't care as long as they lived. Finally they burst into a smaller chamber, where medpods lined the walls like open shells. Lyrianne slumped against one. Here, she whispered. This system can implement the bonding. Kate stared at the pod. Looks like a giant toaster. It will sustain me while the integration begins, she said. But you must choose to connect. Without your consent, the process will fail. He looked at her, at the faint glow of her ears, at the warrior now trembling. You sure about this? I have no other path, she said softly. He blew out a breath. Okay, but I'm keeping my sense of humor. It's non-negotiable. Her lips curved faintly. I would expect nothing less. He helped her into the pod. As it sealed around her, cable snaking toward his wrist interface, he thought about every absurd twist that had led him here. Battlefields, jokes, alien genomes, and now the possibility of merging with someone he'd met only hours ago. Outside, the station's alarms faded into a low hum, as if the entire place held its breath. Inside the pod, Lyrianne's glow brightened, casting soft amber light over his hands. Ready? She asked. Not even slightly, he said. But let's do it anyway. Her eyes closed, the pod systems engaging. Data streams crossed from her body to his wrist unit, a shimmering bridge of code and biology. Cade's heart pounded. For a moment, he swore he felt her thoughts brushes, like a whisper through static. He chuckled under his breath. If this turns me into a glowing elf with long ears, we're going to have a serious talk. Her voice, faint but amused, drifted from the pod. Perhaps you would look better that way. He grinned despite the weight of the moment. Yeah, right. Let's just save your life first. The pod sealed completely, systems humming. On the screen above, two genomes began to intertwine, like twin spirals of light. The countdown to completion blinked steadily, each second carrying them closer to something neither fully understood, but both had chosen, bound by urgency, survival, and an odd flicker of humor in the dark. The medpod's timer crawled forward in flickering digits, while Marcus Cage stood, with one hand braced against the console. Inside the transparent shell, Lyrianne's form lay perfectly still, threads of amber light spiraling from her skin into the machine's conduits. His wrist unit buzzed with data, half human code, half Altari symbols. It felt like holding two storms in the palm of his hand. Okay, he muttered. Step 1. Don't freak out. Step 2. Definitely don't press the glowing red button. Her voice came faintly through the pod speakers. That button activates emergency purge. Yeah, he said, which in human terms means bad idea. The genome integration bar inched toward completion. Cade tried to distract himself by talking. You know, on my home planet, this would be the worst first date ever. Your home planet, she murmured. Sounds very strange. We've got oceans, skyscrapers, and fast food. You'd hate it. But hey, you'd love the sunsets. Describe them. He hesitated, surprised at the question. Gold and violet over steel cities. Like fire dissolving into glass. Beautiful, she whispered. Before he could answer, the console beeped. Integration complete. Final synchronization required. His wrist unit displayed a pulsing pattern. Guess that's my cue, he said. All right, weird alien science magic, do your thing. He placed his palm on the interface pad. A burst of light leapt between him and the pod, lancing up his arm in a web of sparks. He gasped, not pain, but a rush of sensation, like tasting another mind. Fragments of images flickered across his vision. Crimson moons, crystalline forests, battlefields seen through someone else's eyes. Whoa, he muttered. This is new. Lyrianne's voice threaded through his head now, clear and direct. You are inside the bridge. I'd say more like you're inside mine. Both. Her tone carried a faint tremor, half fear, half wonder. Do not resist. He tried to relax, letting the current flow. Memories from his own life drifted up, dusty barracks, his brother's laughter, the weight of a rifle, only to feel her curiosity brush over them like fingertips. He snorted. Okay, if you're going to poke around my memories, at least skip the embarrassing parts. I already saw you singing to a cleaning bot. He groaned. Fantastic. Her laugh, inside his head, felt like a ripple of warm water. Your mind is loud. Yeah, welcome to humanity. The pod hummed louder, the spiraling lights weaving tighter until they formed a helix that spanned from her chest to his wrist unit. Data scrolled faster. He felt her heartbeat synchronize with his, a double thrum. For a moment his vision doubled. He saw through her eyes the sterile lab, the faint shimmer of electromagnetic fields, the microfractures in the pod glass. Wow, he said aloud. Your eyesight is ridiculous. I can practically see atoms. Focus, she chided gently. We must complete the bonding. A surge of energy pulsed through both of them. His veins lit faintly, a flicker of bioluminescence under his skin. He stared at his glowing hands. Oh, great. Now I'm a human glow stick. It will fade, she said, though amusement laced her words. Or perhaps not. The pod chimed a rising tone, then hissed open. Lyrienne sat up slowly, light still tracing her ears, but her movements sure and strong again. She breathed deep, steady. It worked, she said softly. Cade wobbled and caught himself on the console. I think it worked. Or I'm hallucinating from lack of sleep. You feel altered. Yeah, like my head's a crowded subway. He blinked at her. But hey, you're alive. That's the win column. She stepped out, touching his arm. We are both alive. More than that, connected. He gave a crooked grin. Does this mean we're officially bonded, or do we need to update our relationship status on the Galactic Registry? Her lips quirked. You joke even now. Joking keeps the terror down. Their shared pulse slowed into a calmer rhythm. She tilted her head. I sense your fatigue. Yeah, well, I sense your smugness. Before she could answer, alarms erupted throughout the station. The defense matrix had detected unauthorized genome manipulation. Panels slid back to reveal turret barrels. Guess ancient alien security doesn't like cross-species bonding. Cade muttered. We must leave immediately, Lyrienne said. I have strength now. I can help. They ran through the corridors, dodging flickers of energy fire. Cade fired at the turrets while she hacked into wall panels with a touch, her biometrics overriding defenses just long enough for them to pass. Their minds stayed faintly linked, letting them anticipate each other's movements. He found himself ducking a half-second before she shouted a warning, or she pivoted just as he raised his rifle. You know, he panted. This mind-link thing would have been great back on the battlefield. It is efficient, she agreed, knocking out a turret with a pulse of directed energy from her palm. Finally, they reached the docking bay. The dropship sat waiting, engines already cycling thanks to remote activation. I'm starting to love this ship, he said, even if it smells like hot socks. It will do, she said, climbing aboard. Inside, Cade threw himself into the pilot's seat, hands moving with practiced speed. Lyrienne strapped in and extended her senses through the interface, boosting the engines with her own energy signature. The ship tore free of the docking clamps just as the station began sealing bulkheads behind them. As they shot into open space, a cluster of interceptor drones streaked toward them. Cade sighed. Of course. Nothing's ever easy. Give me control of weapons, she said. Be my guest. Her hands danced over the console, firing plasma bolts with inhuman precision. 2 drones exploded. A third veered off, circuits fried. Cade angled the ship into a gravity slingshot around the station's broken ring, gaining speed. Hold on, he said. This is going to be bumpy. You enjoy danger. No, he said. I enjoy surviving it. They burst clear of the station's sensor net. Behind them, Nimbus array flickered and dimmed, slipping back into shadow. Cade exhaled. Well, that's one way to end a research trip. Lyrienne's glow dimmed to a softer hue. I feel stronger. and yet also changed. Yeah, he said. Join the club. He flexed his glowing fingers. Do you think this will fade? Unclear. Well, at least I'll be easy to find in the dark. She almost smiled. Perhaps it suits you. He chuckled, setting a course for deep space. Next stop, somewhere less explodey. Their link pulsed again, a quiet echo of shared thoughts. For the first time, the silence between them felt companionable rather than desperate. They had survived the bond, escaped the station, and outflown the drones, but both knew the galaxy would not ignore what they had become. Cade rested his head back against the seat. So, he said, you hungry? I've got a ration bar that tastes vaguely like peanut butter if peanut butter were invented by sad robots. Her laugh was quiet but genuine. I will try it. Careful, he said. That stuff might be worse for you than cellular collapse. She looked at him, ears flicking with amusement. We shall see. And for a while, as the ship drifted between stars, the two warriors, once enemies, now something else, shared wee jokes, bad rations, and the strange calm of a bond that had begun as survival and was becoming something far more complicated, carried along the current of hyperspace toward an unknown but shared horizon. Marcus Cade woke to the soft hum of the ship running in quiet drift mode. For the first time since the battlefield, the silence was not a warning but a lullaby. His wrist unit blinked steady pulses in time with a second pulse he now recognized as Lyrian's. Their link was still there, lighter, not invasive but constant, like a faint echo at the back of his mind. He rolled off the bunk and found her at the navigation console, tracing a route through star charts she'd generated from memory. You're awake, she said without looking up. I dreamt I was back in basic training, he muttered. Only this time the drill sergeant had long glowing ears. That would improve your discipline, she said dryly. He grinned. Doubt it. The ship's sensors showed no pursuit. The two of them had jumped far enough that both the human expeditionary force and the Altari Protectorate would be chasing ghosts. Still, Marcus could feel the weight of what they'd done. An illegal bond, a genetic link that shouldn't exist, two soldiers now fugitives. So, he said, leaning against the bulkhead, we're officially off everyone's Christmas list, or equivalent galactic holiday. That was inevitable, she said, but there was no regret in her tone. We altered more than our DNA. We altered the future between our peoples. He whistled softly. I was hoping for just a quiet retirement and a decent cup of coffee. Perhaps you will still have both, she said. But not yet. He sat at the co-pilot's seat, fingers running across controls, now strangely intuitive. The bond had given him fragments of her perception. He could sense gravity fluctuations before the ship's instruments registered them, feel electromagnetic ripples as faint tingles on his skin. This is still weird, he said. Useful but weird. I also feel different, she admitted. Your memories, your resilience. It steadies me. They shared a quiet moment, each catching flashes of the other's inner life without effort. He chuckled. You're getting used to my sense of humor. That's character growth. I would not call it that, she said, though her ears flicked in amusement. On the holotable a red icon appeared, an encrypted message from somewhere deep in neutral space. Marcus opened it. A grainy figure appeared, a broker from the Shadow Networks who traded in information. Word travels fast, Marcus muttered. We've become legends before lunch. The broker offered safe passage and new identities in exchange for data on the hybrid genome. Lyrian met Marcus's eyes. If we refuse, both our governments will still hunt us. He sighed. And if we accept, we become someone else entirely. You already are someone else, she said softly. He blinked at her. Yeah, yes I am. After a long pause, he sent back a single-coded reply, an O sale. He closed the channel. We're not selling ourselves, he said. We figure out our own way. Lyrian's expression softened. You risk much. I've been risking things since day one, he said. But for once it feels like my choice, not just an order. She placed her hand over his on the console. Then let us choose together. He smirked. Look at us, space fugitives with matching mood lights. Her laugh was quiet but genuine. "It is less lonely than I expected." He keyed in new coordinates. An uninhabited planet on the edge of charted space, rumored to have breathable air and ancient ruins. "We'll hide out there for a while," he said. "Think of it as a working vacation." Do humans ever stop joking? Not the good ones. Hours later, the ship dropped out of hyperspace over a green and gold world. As they descended, Marcus felt their link flicker with a new sensation, anticipation instead of desperation. They landed on a plateau overlooking a vast ocean. He powered down the engines and sat back. Home sweet mystery rock. They disembarked, the alien air cool and clean. Lyrian closed her eyes, drawing a deep breath. "I can live here." "Yeah," he said. "Me too." They walked to a cliff edge, the ocean shining below. For a long time neither spoke. Marcus thought of the soldier he had been. Scarred, cynical, following orders without believing in them. Now he stood on a world no one owned, bonded to someone who had once been his enemy, carrying in his body the proof that survival and change could be the same thing. "You know," he said, "if someone told me a week ago I'd be part alien, part fugitive, and part whatever this is." "You would have laughed at them," she said. "Still laughing," he said, "just differently." Lyrian looked at him. "I am no longer dying." "Good," he said, and meant it. "And you are no longer lost." He blinked. "Huh, didn't know I was, but yeah, guess you're right." She extended her hand. "Then let us build something new." He took it, their pulses synchronizing again, but now by choice. "Yeah," he said softly. "Let's." The ship behind them powered down completely, lights fading. Above, the stars spread like a million doorways. Their governments would keep searching. The war might keep raging. But here on the edge of the known galaxy stood two beings no longer quite what they were. Neither enemy nor stranger, neither victim nor savior. Sharing weak jokes and stubborn hope. Ready to define themselves on their own terms. Marcus squeezed her hand, feeling the glow in his veins pulse like a heartbeat. "You know," he said, "for a supposedly fatal curse, this turned out pretty okay." Lyrian smiled. "Perhaps some curses are beginnings in disguise." He chuckled, looking out over the water. "Yeah, guess we'll find out." Together they watched the alien sun rise, the bond between them quiet but steady, their laughter carried off by the wind like a signal to the stars that something new had begun and would endure.